I ran around trying to get people interested in playing in a glam rock band in '84. You know, and I made posters up. It wasn't called Candy Harlots, it was called Chrome Desire. And I had the whole blueprint for what I wanted to do with the Candy Harlots back then, and nobody wanted to do it. Nobody was interested. It was like, what the hell are you talking about? You're an absolute idiot, you know, get back to being a shoe starer band. But, you know, my image back in the Soggy Porridge, if you look at photos of it, I already looked glam back then, you know. I was influenced by people like, again, I was, you know, really big influenced by people like, Boy George and Marilyn. Yeah, well, that was where I took my influences from. And, you know, what happened was, by the time I got to 86, 87, people started to catch on about glam rock. And all of a sudden there was a band playing around Sydney called the Glam Savages. And I was so envious of these guys because I thought, I really want to be in that band. You know, this is what I wanted to do. I can't believe there's a band playing around doing the stuff I wanted to do, you know, 3 years ago. So anyhow, as things turned out, the singer left. And all of a sudden they were looking for a singer, and I said, I just put my hand up. Yep, I'm in. You know, I'll come and audition. And I joined the Glam Savages, and we recorded some material, but I don't know where it is. We still did a couple of Glam Savage songs in the early days. I think there's a song on one of those live, you know, there was a song called Be My Savage, I think, or Savage Love, which was a Glam Savage song. But anyhow, I'll tell you the story about how that happened. What happened was Ron and Nick, the original bass player, were in the Glam Savages, and we started a fight with the original guitarist and songwriter, and I said, let's go and do our own thing. And so I pulled those guys in, and that's how it started, the Candy Harlots.
I love the way you used to start off with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where you'd have Tony Cardinal, the drummer, and Lino D start the song. Ron would walk out, Mark would walk out, plug in, you'd come out last. That is fantastic. I don't see bands doing that kind of presentation anymore.
Well, you know, I got into theatre. I really had got in, you know, because I wasn't playing an instrument anymore. And look, back in the Soggy Porridge days, I wanted to become more theatrical. That was my thing. And so that was part of what I did, you know. I choreographed basically the band, you know, and choreographed the show. And it just wasn't a band playing and a singer sort of chucking rock poses. It was, you know, I was doing specified things. You know, over the years I had different things that I do, you know, the silly string thing down the pants, and the blow up chupa chups, blow up frankfurts, blow up dolls, you know, giving roses out to the girls, giving, you know, whatever. But, you know, that was just part of things that we do, you know. I think there was all sorts of things that, you know, that there was always things that would just happen, you know. We'd think, oh, hey, why don't we do that? Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was a song that was actually written by a band called The Specimen. They were an underground band over in New York. They were more of a punk band, really, and that was a B-side of one of their albums.
Do you think that, I mean, you probably would have been asked this before, but if the band had have been, and we're talking early '88, based in Los Angeles or parts of the United States, you would have taken off? Because there was tons and tons of B-grade hard rock metal bands who got signed to major labels who were nowhere near as good as the Candy Harlots.
Let me just tell you something. I'll tell you, if the internet had been around in those days, we would have been huge. But it wasn't. And, you know, I mean, back in those days, we're still putting vinyl out. So if the net was around, you can bet your boots, the world's a lot smaller now, we would have been bigger. Yeah, there's a couple of factors. We didn't have to be in America, but we would have been picked, you know, would have been known, and we would have had more chance to cross over there. The other thing is, even if we had been picked up by a record label at the early days and somebody took a chance on us, we would have been big. But, you know, by the time they picked the band up, you know, the band was, you know, it was probably 92. I'm not sure of the history after I left. But by 92, you know, the whole Guns N' Roses glam rock thing was, you know, on basically it peaked and was sliding. So basically, but nobody had the guts to do it. All these record labels and that were all like, oh no, we don't want to take a chance on them. They'll probably OD and be dead by the time we, and they're too outrageous. How are we going to tone them down? And they should have, why didn't they, instead of saying that, they should have come in and say, hey, wow, look at these guys. These guys are prepared to do anything. They do everything. Mate, let's lap it up. Even if we get a year or two out of them, I mean, this is outrageous. Let's be the record companies in this country are too safe, and they wanted soft-ass replicas of hard-ass bands.
Best live venue in Sydney you played in the 80s?
I think, really, you couldn't beat the Cardoma for, general rock and roll, party time. Yeah, it was a dungeon, so it was quite a lot of fun. I think, I remember doing a gig down at some place down in Circular Quay. I can't remember what it was called. I remember doing a couple of good shows there.
Sydney Cove Tavern?
Sydney Cove Tavern was pretty cool. There was venues around that were good. A couple of open air gigs we did were fun. I remember the very last gig I did after that gig at the Cardoma, where we played out at the Blacktown Showground, and I'm pretty sure that was a pretty sick gig. And that was a better gig than the night before, the one that was taped.
A couple of final questions, Mark, before we'll wrap up. How do you think the Candy Harlots will be remembered? Looking back, you read through the history of Australian rock.
Oh, that's a hard one, really, because it's like looking back and saying how was say bands like Buffalo remembered.
I'd say Buffalo are revered.
Well, that's probably what we will be too. People will never really get the full gist of it because you had to be there to realise just how outrageous it was.